Hello, my friends, and welcome to the Secrets of a Witch podcast with me, Sabrina Scott. On this podcast, I talk about life, love, healing, witchcraft, magic, tarot, spirituality, mediumship, feminine energy, good vibes, and everything in between. It's been a little while since I've recorded an episode, and I have to say that the vibes right now are just so good. We are nearing the end of Mercury retrograde as I am recording this. Mercury goes direct tomorrow on Thursday. I'm really bad with dates, so I'm not even going to try to remember what the number of the day is. But that is happening tomorrow. And then on Friday, we have the beautiful new moon in Virgo season. And as a newly discovered Virgo rising for a really long time, I had my birth time wrong. And so I was convinced I was a Libra rising. And it's one of those things I was always like, why is there no Virgo in my chart? This is so strange. There should be. Like, I love lists and like making plans and exact things. And I'm a little bit OCD about a lot of stuff. And there you go, Virgo rising. Anyway, that's a story for another time. I'm going to try to stay on topic. Anyway, this moment is so juicy and so potent, and I feel on fire in the best way. Like, I feel like the air is changing. I feel like the energy is changing right now, and we are just about to burst into this shift of decisiveness, focus. I want to say hard work, and apparently my cat agrees. Hard work, focus, knowing what it is we want and knowing what it is that we need to do in order to get there. And I love that for me. I love that for all of us. Everyone I know, even the very non-spiritual people, feel like they're on the brink of something right now. And so there really is something in the fucking air, which personally I really, really love. So do harness this moment in some kind of way if you have not done so yet. Like, take some time to read tarot, take some time to light some candles, take some time to do a little ritual. Just take a little time for you to focus on who you are, who you want to be next, and how you're going to get there. I've been thinking about a lot of things. If you guys have been creeping my Instagram, you'll see that I made a really thoughtful post about 9/11. If you guys don't know this about me, I grew up in America, and I do feel very culturally American, even though I was born in Canada, and I'll probably always feel like America is my country. And I just wanted to share some thoughts about all of that. So that's on Instagram, as well as a recent post about the importance of saying what we're afraid to say. And so that's something that I'm going to be sharing a lot more about in the coming months, most likely, after a very reinvigorating conversation with my main PhD supervisor, bless her heart. And so I made a little Instagram post about that, so go check that out as well if you are bored or just want your brain to feel tingly in a good way. But today's episode is about something a little bit more mundane, a little bit different. And I just got back from the grocery store, and I spent probably 2 hours walking the grocery store, wandering around the grocery store, and just slowly kind of meandering. I have my list. I bought a lot of stuff that wasn't on my list. I spent a lot of time looking at everything, choosing the perfect parsley, choosing the perfect dandelion greens. And interestingly, while I was opening my little really thin plastic bag thing that you put the veggies in, this bell pepper just tumbled into the bag. I've never had that happen before. Clearly wanting to come home with me, and it just all felt very magical. And I got some stuff from my inner child, some flowers for my altar, and a cute swan stuffed animal and a turtle stuffed animal. And I don't know if you guys know this, I collect stuffed octopuses, turtles, and swans. And so it just felt very special. I grabbed that. And what I want to talk about today is I feel like the grocery store is a sacred place. And I feel like buying food is a sacred thing. And I feel like food is sacred and holy. And I just want to talk about that for a few minutes today. It's not going to be a super long episode, but I see so many people so focused on trying to access like witchcraft and trying to access magic and trying to access the spiritual and like struggling and like not really being too sure like what it is or how to find it. And I just believe that witchcraft and magic and spirituality and holiness and energy is everywhere, including the grocery store. And I actually find like food, like fresh vegetables, fresh fruit, but especially fresh vegetables, I guess as a vegan, for me, it's just, there's something so beautiful and sacred about food, right? Because if you go to some of the stuff that I've said in my first book, Witch Body, I talk a lot about how magic is all about different beings coming together to unite, to do something and merge together. And eating is so interesting because we're literally choosing the bodies that will be inside us. If we think of food as a body, like a bell pepper or jalapeno or habanero or dandelion greens or oyster mushrooms, all stuff that I just brought home, as bodies in their own right, which they are, we're merging bodies. We're choosing which bodies are going to be inside of us, that are going to become a part of us, because we all know that we are what we eat. What it is that we eat becomes who we are, changes our body chemistry, changes our skin, changes our mood, changes how we feel. And isn't that fucking witchy? Like, isn't that magical? Isn't that profound? In this really amazing way that we can literally consume and become one with another body in a material sense and an energetic sense. And if you guys have been creeping my Instagram, you'll know that my whole thing this year has been rejuvenating my obsession with farmers markets. There was a time, probably about 13 years ago when I first went vegan, that I was obsessed with farmers markets and cooking and all of that. And because there wasn't really that many vegan restaurants, I was a broke student and I had to cook, I had to figure it out. And my partner at the time, bless his heart, lovely guy, but did not cook whatsoever. And so I basically cooked all my own food, and he just ate out all the time as a meat eater and got takeout. And I was obsessed with learning how to cook because I never knew how to do that. My family didn't really cook. It was just spaghetti, and to this day I fucking hate spaghetti. It was just tomato sauce and noodles, disgusting. And yeah, to this day, tomato sauce and noodles, I just kind of find it mostly disgusting and repulsive. So I feel like I had my lifetime supply of it when I was a kid, and we were broke, and that was all the food there was. And anyway, fast forward to today, and after a bunch of years of takeout all the time, eating out a lot, and being able to afford that, thankfully, but I've got this rejuvenated interest in touching my food again and washing the dirt off of the greens and examining the mushrooms to make sure they're still good and still fresh, and learning about the differences between 20 bazillion different types of hot peppers and tasting the nuance of that difference, and just expanding my knowledge in the kitchen. And there's something so meditative and satisfying about cooking and learning more about food and just embracing the sensory nature of eating. I do find eating, this is going to sound weird, but there is kind of an inherent sexualness to eating, right? Especially I think for women, probably, because there is something about being a receptive party to take something inside of us, if that is a part of your sexuality. Maybe it's not, but I think for a lot of us it is. To receive that, right? To open oneself up to receive. to have something inside you. Sorry, it's getting like a bit intense, but I think there's something so interesting about that. And I do think that eating can be so like sensual and pleasurable, and maybe not sexual, but there is nothing I love more like when I'm dating than sharing a meal with somebody. Like I find that just so, like there is something foreplayish about that, right? To both be eating, let's say the same thing, like if we go for a tasting menu with wine pairings, even better, to be able to bond over what we're both eating at the same time. Like there is something sexy about that. There is something sensual. There is something erotic about that. And not to say that like I'm turned on walking through the grocery store, like I'm not, but there is something just so sensory and sensual about the grocery store, about the food, the abundance of food, whether that is like a giant Loblaws grocery store here in Toronto, which is where I just was, or whether that is the abundance of crazy, interesting shit at the farmer's market in your local park or whatever. And if you've never been to a farmer's market, I highly recommend it. Like it is so fun and everything just looks so luscious and beautiful, and there is something so satisfying about it all. And I don't even mean in that like we can buy our way out of behaving unethically or whatever. I just find that whole thing like so boring these days. Like who gives a shit, honestly? And I know probably some people are going to critique me for that, but I just don't think it's that, useful. But anyway. And so if you don't relate to food this way, maybe begin to try to open yourself up to it. And like, I get it. Food can be stressful for some of us. Like I had an eating disorder when I was like 10 to maybe 15 or something, where eating was like not my favorite. Like I starved myself. Like I barely ate. Like I ate like one meal a day. I was like 100 pounds. And so like I get it. Like I understand like food doesn't feel luxurious for everybody. And I think honestly it's part of that history, part of that like food denial, part of that like obsession and trauma around it. Like I think that is honestly a big part of why enjoying and leaning into food to such a high degree now is so important for me, because it feels like such a reclamation, right? Instead of being world rejecting like many religions are, I switched over to having a world embracing attitude towards the sensual, towards food, towards the body, towards everything. And so everything is connected. And so if you are struggling with food right now, just please know my heart goes out to you. I don't want to trigger anybody, but believe that there is a way out of it. Like you do not have to live that way forever. There is a way out. If I can get out of it, you absolutely also can, right? It's possible. And I think learning to embrace food, learning to find the joy in something, and getting rid of shame or should or hyperfixation on weight or body shape or whatever, we can move away from that and reclaim our pleasure. We can reclaim the pleasure of the senses. Like food is gorgeous, right? There's the visual of looking at the bright colors of all these peppers, like the tactility of it. They're so luscious and smooth to the touch. And when you cut them open, they kind of crunch. And I just love that. And so slow down. If you haven't noticed the beauty of food, that could be something to open yourself up to. And if you're someone who doesn't really eat that much like fresh fruits or vegetables, like I would probably try to like switch that around. And I'm not trying to convert everyone to veganism, but there is something really lovely about the freshness of the bounty from the earth that I think can be very spiritually transformative to build relationship to and with. So we can find magic in these daily tasks, right? And the most mundane of things. Everyone has to eat food at some point. And so I find like when we lean into witchiness, when we lean into spirituality, when we lean into magic, and in my case, animism, it is possible to expand our relationship to all that is. And those of you who read my first book, Witch Body, will know that like that's what the whole book is about, honestly. So if you haven't read it, you probably should. Check it out on the internet, Witch Body, the book by Sabrina Scott. And it's just a vibe. I don't know. Like magical and the mundane. It's all the same to me at this point. And I guess I'll use this opportunity to plug my second book, Curse and Cure, Magic for Real Life by me, Sabrina Scott, available exclusively on Amazon, shipping to anywhere in the world. And I do talk a lot about the magic and the mundane in that book too, though a bit less philosophical, a bit more practical. So I'm going to leave y'all with that for now, because that is all I have to say at the present moment. But stay tuned. I'm really excited to birth a bunch of things into the world this fall. I'm just like, I don't know, brimming with the good vibes at the moment. And I just feel so creatively aligned and cannot wait to share that with you all. The feminine energy without bullshit is also in the works. Had a little bit of a delay, but it's happening. And I'm just going to trust like the timing with that. Like the universe sometimes tells me like, no, not yet. And I just got to listen to that. So anyway, that's it for now. If you want to say hello, you can do so at Instagram at Sabrina M. Scott. You can also email me, ceo@sabrinamscott.com. If you can hear that beeping, it is because I live in a city and that's how I do things. You can check out my website, sabrinamscott.com. As I talked about in my last episode, I have reduced the pricing for my tarot readings, and so it is a really good time to book one of those as we go into spooky season, at least here in Canada. It's already feeling chilly. I wore a light fall jacket to the grocery store, and it just feels so good to finally whip out my fall clothes. So it's tarot time, friends. Fall time is tarot time. Anyway, I'll see you guys the next episode. Have a lovely, lovely day. Much love. Bye.